Good day, and welcome to our podcast and our vlog of the Connecting Materials. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m., we talk about the text that come in between each Sunday as we read out of the narrative lectionary. And uh, in between each Sunday, there is a load of material that does not get covered in any given year. And so we go back to what's last Sunday was about and what next Sunday was about, and everything in between that we're going to talk about. We're not going to try to be theological about it. We're just going to retell the story in a different way. And so you can see that from the image here, that part of our uh, talk today will be about uh, Passover and spreading of blood on the lintels and door frames. So why don't we just get into that right now and see where that takes us. We are covering today uh, for this year 4 of the narrative lectionary. And I should mention, I am Pastor Ken. I'm pastor of Our Saviors and Central Lutheran Churches of the Fairfax Lutheran Parish and also of Fairfax United Methodist Church. We're all here in Fairfax, Central being kind of in between Franklin and Fairfax. Central, as I say, is in the country. So we're covering today Exodus 5, verse 1, all the way up into Exodus 14, verse 25, and into 15 is 2. So we're going to cover a pretty wide scoop of material. So hold on to your seats and be ready to fly with these stories. So we left last week, just as Moses was being born. And last Sunday, we heard the story of Moses' encounter with God in the burning bush. And God calls Moses, first of all, to remove his shoes because he's upon holy ground. Where God and Moses encounter, like all of us, it's holy ground where God meets us. I've interpreted this to mean that any place we meet God, yes, is holy ground. Maybe we don't need to remove our shoes for the experience, but we need to stop what we are doing and listen to God. And maybe we could connect this to our need to stop, take time away from our busyness, to leave our shoes at the door, so to speak, uh, our preoccupations and our distractions that keep us from God and from hearing God, whether that's Sunday morning, Saturday evening, or wherever you would gather with all the shoeless worshipers to listen to God unabated. So let's move in to this story. So God comes to Moses, tells him to go back to Egypt and convince Pharaoh to let the Israelites go free from slavery. And Moses takes his brother Aaron to speak for him because Moses isn't the greatest speaker. Um, it's kind of inferred that he may be he stumbles with his words. He stutters. And of course, when they get to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's obstinate. Pharaoh wants things done Pharaoh's way. So to convince Pharaoh, God sent 10 plagues in hope of breaking down Pharaoh's hardened heart. And 2 of those are the turning the water to blood, and then Moses calling forth vast quantities of frogs. So the plague of water to blood and then frogs. Magicians of Pharaoh can replicate these 2 signs. So Pharaoh refuses. He says, just a trick. You know better than God is no better than my magicians. And he refuses to release the Israelites and instead makes them gather their own straw for brick making. I'm not going to provide you building materials anymore. You're going to do it all yourself. Made the work harder. Well, there's a 3rd plague of gnats that cover the land. And this is something that the magicians couldn't replicate. They called it the finger of God. And then all the other ones after them, they could never replicate, could never reproduce. And those plagues were flies, and livestock pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness. Each plague brought suffering upon the Egyptians and upon their land and their livestock, but did not affect the Israelites. They weren't quite getting that. And sadly, Pharaoh's response was to oppress the Israelites even more. Now, if you're recounting, you remember I said 10 plagues. This is only 9. And this last one is the most devastating. And it sets the scene for Passover. It is the killing of the firstborn. Now, the Egyptians at this point had enough. And Pharaoh let the Israelites go. In fact, Pharaoh told them, "Get out of my land." So Moses instructs the people they need to pack quickly and be ready to travel at a moment's notice. Now, if you want more on this Passover preparation and more on the story, including that blood on the doors, on the home's lintels and door frames, I can tell you that those are the signs for the angel of death to pass over the houses and not bring death upon it. But to get the full width, go read Exodus 12. Well, so they take off quickly, and they arrive at the shores of the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army in hot pursuit. So God puts this pillar of fire and cloud between them and the Egyptian soldiers and holds them back. Well, when all seemed for nothing, like we might as well go back with them and go be their slaves again, God tells Moses, "Raise your staff and watch what happens." And Moses raises his staff, and God parts the waters, and they walk through on dry land, all the way across to the other side. However, when the Egyptian army tries this trick to cross between the walls of water, something else happens. And God releases the water, and the Pharaoh's army is drowned. Well, they get out into the wilderness, into the desert, and after a few days, the people begin to get to worry about water. They're thirsty. And the only water they found in the desert is bitter and undrinkable. And so God gave Moses a tree whose wood turned the water sweet. That's where we leave off today. It's a wonderful setting place, and we want to pick up on this story on Sunday, on this weekend, where we pick up the story 6 weeks later. We are going into Exodus 16. But for now, note through what we've heard here that God's determination is to remove Israel from Egyptian slavery, and in the process will seal the fate of Pharaoh and Pharaoh's people. So if you want to hear a continuation of this narrative lectionary, join us in worship at Central Lutheran at 5 p.m. on Saturday, 9 a.m. on Sunday at Our Savior's Lutheran Church, or 10:30 at Fairfax United Methodist Church. We will take the story farther and learn about manna. And you can also catch us live stream at Our Savior's Central Lutheran Church's Facebook page, or Fairfax United Methodist Church Facebook page. At each one's scheduled worship time, we do our live stream then. So join us either in person in worship or join us online. But until next week, hope to see you in church, and then come back next week to hear more of the connecting materials. God's blessings to you as you continue to walk the path and walk this life of faith. on our connecting materials as well. Have a wonderful day. God's blessings, and may you also find connection with God.